Christmas fireplace from Lo-Fi Christmas music from Lo-Fi Geek. Welcome back to Build Theory. This is the ever so slightly annoyed follow-up. Apparently, the recent updates to Mid-Sierra Reborn, well, broke a lot of things. So I killed off the current install, installed the previous version I had been using, didn't update it, and alright, well, as I mouse over Soul Drain, and we'll point out I am not presently run. Okay, first of all, we're going to. I know you can't see this, so I'm just going to read it off. We're on Mids Reborn version 3.0.6.0, database homecoming issue 27, version 21.0809. On this version of Mids Hero Reborn, if we right-click on Soul Drain, we see that our calculated in-game recharge should be 37.78 seconds. And this is based on an... Excuse me. I have that clicked. Alright. That was one of the things I hadn't noticed. I had kick was clicked, and when you do totals, I don't like this format because it's very difficult to see that a power was clicked. So some of the uh, presumptions I made on recharge were based on kick being turned on. And even then, when I turn kick off, even though I've clicked it off, it doesn't have the dull gray that the other powers, say like Siphon Life or Dark Obliteration or Gloom have. It's not obvious that this power is not contributing or whatever to the times. Now, right now I have a recharge calculated by Meteor Reborn of 45 seconds, and we check our totals, and we see that Soul Drain has a recharge of 55.15 on a duration of 30 seconds. And when we click on Kick, we see that it changed all the way down to 37. Well, one of the changes to Stone Armor is Minerals now has a recharge component, and some of the order has been lined up. So Minerals now has Self plus Recharge, and if we check our information, we see that plus 15% recharge to self. So when I go up and we looked at combat attributes earlier, we saw that, let's hide our power sources, we saw that we're pushing a base recharge time of 67.50, and looking at the recharge time of Soul Drain, like, oh, okay, Soul Drain's perma. And because of all the crossover and rolling back and forth, it's recharge time up here. I didn't realize that Soul Drain, the number I should have been looking at is down here, 30 seconds. Soul Drain on the left for 30 seconds. So Soul Drain's not anywhere close to perma, which annoys the living daylights out of me. Now, getting Soul Drain to perma in this build would probably not actually be that hard. And we'll go ahead and bring up the builder. Alright, right now we are on DS2. And kind of the simple thing to do would be to, say, drop Darkest Night and retake Hasten, or drop Speed of Sound. Without Speed of Sound, I don't need combat jumping. I could take up maneuvers and then pick up Hasten and grab these two slots from here. So it would look something like drop combat jumping, drop Speed of Sound, leadership, maneuvers. Alright, and right here we'd go speed, hasten, and we pull our 2 slots from here, and we do hasten, and we do hasten 2 times, and maneuvers would be luck of the gambler, defense endurance, although we're probably capped on, yeah, we're capped on the recovery. So that 10% regeneration didn't buy me anything. Alright, and now we'd recheck our numbers. Hasten up, check hasten, it's 144 over 120. And check soul drain, it's at 41 over 30. Crank up agility radial paragon, we're back down to 37 seconds. On soul drain and 134. So we're not even anywhere near closing the gap on making soul drain perma. And because I've got avalanche in here, recharge time is already into ED cap is cutting into it. There's not really a good way to get some more recharge time short of putting eradication in there. Swapping soul drain and eradication, okay, that is an idea, but it only buys a few seconds. It's not enough to close a 7-second gap. It may only bring me, I think it only brought me down to like 35. So I don't really have a good way to maintain the defensive properties of the build and rebuild looking back at DR4 fix. And on DR4 fix, let's stay outside of granite armor. We got rock armor, crystal armor. Yeah, and DR4 fix, we are seeing an error pickup on Mid-Sierra Reborn that it's not putting powers where they're supposed to be. Which is easy enough worked around. But checking soul drain now. On this particular build, did I even take hasten? And I took hasten at level 30. With hasten up, I'm not quite into perma hasten. Got melee radial going. That was for the regeneration. So I don't actually, okay, there's agility radial paragon. So on the current DR4 build, I'm only a few seconds off of perma hasten at 123.9. And on soul drain, I'm only a few seconds off from perma soul drain at 32 seconds. Without hasten turned on, soul drain is at 40 seconds. So looking back in game, and now we gotta wait for it to come around. We're looking at 40 seconds on soul drain outside of hasten being up on DR4. And counting down. And right now, soul drain's at 43 seconds outside of hasten on DS1. Alright, so there is a close-off gap there. We're 14 or so seconds that not doing maximum damage. Is that a deal breaker on a brute? Probably not. I've got rage to kind of roll things over, or sorry, not rage. I got fury to tide things over. So not actually being at perma soul drain, probably not actually that big an issue. The extra damage added by brimstone armor, the extra utility offered by the set, being not having an all the time uptime on soul drain, maybe it's a trade-off worth taking. And if I really needed to close the gap on Soul Drain, for whatever reason, I've got the DR4 build to work with. So I'm annoyed, but I'm not annoyed enough to have another go at trying to rejigger this thing to get everything all at once. It's sometimes you do have to go with the maximum of the minimums. Is I'm happy with where the build is, with where DS two, yeah, I'm on DS2 right now. I'm happy with where DS2 is in terms of survivability. Outside of Granite, she's a complete monster. And a DR4 build is a complete monster inside of Granite. And also has the power configuration, the combat teleport to be, well, right now she has basic teleport. Um, and I honestly may not change the combat teleport. I may just leave it at regular teleport. Because that's, to just change one power that does the same thing seems kind of, yeah, combat teleport's quicker, gets you in and out of the teleport, and does give you that little boost up, but she's a dark, so. And I've got a Kismet going, so whoop-de-doo. Uh, so this is probably going to be my final pass on Darkstone. It's at a place where I'm happy with how the build performs. I'm not coming up with a way to make it significantly better without significantly making it worse some other way. So it's at a happy midpoint where, and I didn't stream this part earlier, uh, is I just turned the travel power off and then went to town on rocking as much AoE damage as I can, and she's fairly decent as far as endurance consumption goes. Now, because she is a high level who already has all the accolades, huh, and she hasn't really been a mainline character. And most of this was to just see how much the stone changes were. Did they make her better? Okay, uh, optimizing a build for the power changes has, in some ways, made a better build, but she's not as good all round. But she is better for specific scenarios. So there is that. I'm probably just, although I just sunk a ton of resources into making a full-on alternate build, I may finish her up, but I'm probably just going to throw her back into DR4, and unless something changes, I'm probably not going to be paying very much attention to this build again. Now, this is not going to be the end of Adventures in Stone. That sounds worse when I say it out loud. Okay. Over the intervening previous days, somebody asked a question about brimstone armor on a Stalker. And yes, stone melee is, or sorry, not stone melee, stone armor and stone melee are coming to Stalkers. Or they may already, again, I don't play on Homecoming enough to know whether or not it's, if I'm spoiling something, I'm sorry, devs. Didn't mean to rain on your parade or show something that's broken ahead of schedule. Again. Uh, but anyway, so Stone is coming to Stalkers, and somebody had a question about it, so I just made a Stone Scrapper. And those are some of the builds. I'm not sure I actually have made them unlisted yet, uh, because I'm not really sure when these changes get pushed to Homecoming, because I don't, Homecoming doesn't interest me. Sorry, it doesn't. Uh, Because anyways, sorry, I'm watching chat scroll by and they're talking about power outages in California. Sorry, you guys elected Democrats. Oh, what did you think was going to happen? If the answer was a good power grid, that's not the answer you were going to get with that. You were going to get terrible power, high gas prices, high food prices, and miserable living conditions. Don't vote for Democrats. It's not really that hard. I mean, lock the Democrats up. Not really that hard. I mean, if you're having problems understanding that, you are the problem. It's really that simple. Anyway, so yeah, I when somebody starts talking about Gavin Fornia doing something incredibly stupid, all I can do is just face palm and go, "It's the Democrats." Go ahead and say it out loud. It's the Democrats. They're your problem. Get rid of them. You get rid of the problem. All right. Anyways, so Stone Stalker. Well, I obviously, since I just did a Stone Scrapper, I wasn't in a hurry to make a Stone Stalker. But somebody did have a legitimate question I couldn't answer. So, okay, rolled up a Stone Stalker, and, well, because this is me and I, like, never do the same character twice, I decided to see if Brimstone Armor could make another particular power set. Well, look less bad. And the running line behind us is bioarmor can make any set look good. And to prove that point, I made a bioarmor uh, kinetic melee tank. So stone armor, staff, stalker. Yeah. Don't ask me what I was thinking. I think the correct answer there is I probably had not either drunk too much vodka or not enough vodka. So, stone staff, and leveled her up enough to be able to answer the brimstone armor question. And she will probably be the next project character that I work on designing a build for now. Uh, Immediately off the top of the bat, staff fighting on stalkers does not. It's sort of like with kinetic melee. Kinetic melee on stalkers is liquid awesome. And it's liquid awesome because concentrated strike, instead of always doing maximum critical damage, if you're critical with concentrated strike, you automatically recharge buildup. Well, the Stalker ATOs now also a chant for buildup. So if you're using the Stalker ATO, and you also have to change it to Assassin's Focus, where punch, and not, I don't mean literally punch, I mean 3 powers, since we're looking at the stone. If you're like, use Midnight Graft, you use Siphon Life, you use Shadow Maul, and then boom, your 4th power, Assassin Strike, is now up at full strength, or almost full strength. Enough full strength, it doesn't really matter. So all you have to do is just 3 normal attacks, and then your Assassin Focus is charged. It's a big thing for Stalkers. But Kinetic Melee, because of the concentrated strike change, you can do Build Up, Assassin Strike, which if you put the chance for hide on Assassin Strike, which you are going to because that's how it's proc per minute designed to go, is it's proc per minute almost every time you hit Assassin Strike, the chance to hide ATO is, as long as you're not within the system and force it cannot hit, it will go off and you'll be hidden. So if you do Assassin Strike, then Concentrated Strike, you get an automatic recharge to your buildup regardless of whether or not the ATO went off. And then if you're using one of your other powers, like your PBAOE, what is it? Burst. Focus Burst is range. Burst is the PBAOE. And your ATO proc goes off, you can hit build up again. And you can just you can have build up going so much on a kinetic melee stalker. It's not funny. It is ludicrous amounts of single target damage. You can just be pumping pumping out. Uh, and part of that because, well, Stalkers didn't have to deal with the mechanics of kinetic melee, which on Tanker, Brute, Scrapper, you got like a power siphon. Is you have to ramp up your maximum damage, and one of your kinetic melee powers doesn't contribute to that pool of damage boost. So you have to have a very specific attack chain to try and maximize your power siphon. And another thing was, I didn't notice this, but on Stalkers, Stalker powers on Kinetic Melee always have the damage debuff. Kinetic Melee on Scrapper, Tank, and Brute, you only have the damage debuff when Power Siphon is active. So not only do you have a power that you cannot ever get to its maximum potential, in fact, you actually get more damage out of Power Siphon by putting a Gaussian buildup proc on it, and that's your initial first burst damage. You're not going to get any higher up than that by the time you ramp into the full effect of Power Siphon, if you can, which is very doubtful if you can actually ramp it that high at all. You'll still be under the amount of damage offered by uh, the Gaussian proc. So it's a Power Siphon, terrible power, and it sinks the whole rest of Kinetic Melee on Tanker, Brute, Scrapper. And there's been lots of suggestions on how to fix it. The primary one is just make Power Siphon a toggle so that it's always on. Or, make Power Siphon that if you do Power Siphon and then Burst now turns into a Fulcrum Shift. Every enemy that's within Burst range now contributes to your base damage pool. Boom, problem solved. You've just made, you've basically remade, what, what is this? Basically remade Soul Drain for Kinetic Melee, but Kinetics itself already has Fulcrum Shift. So why not? It would make things so much better, okay. But looking at staff melee on Stalker, because it doesn't have to deal with the forms. Uh, and the forms are the big problem on staff melee. Just like Power Siphon this wasn't thought through. This is however the developers intended it to work is not how it actually works. With staff melee, the forms on Tanker, Brute, Scrapper, and I've got both a Tanker staff and a Scrapper staff. The forms are supposed to give you a benefit or an advantage or a proc of some kind if you are in a specific form and you perform a specific attack. Well, the damage portion, and I've commented before, compared to the amount of damage boost that you would get out of using build up or by using a constant boost power like Soul Drain, the damage values of the procs in staff on Scrapper, Brute, Tank would have to be tripled before they even start to change. And what we're looking at here, if you're charting DPS, you're actually looking at the band. You'd have to triple the damages in each of the procs before they'd even start to have an effect on the upper end of the amount of damage that a staff could pump out. Now, I have a staff energy, so I have all the recharge on the planet. I can pull off any attack chain I want to at however fast I want to. And because of that, I can confidently state that even at hyper recharges, even if you're tripling the amount of proc damage, you're not actually adding a whole lot to the damage potential that staff offers. Probably in order to make those procs worth it from a damage perspective, to bring staff in line with something else, you'd have to bump that proc up probably 4 or 5 times. And that's a very large change to make. Uh, unless that's done, you just have to accept that staff is going to be under damaging. It's not really a utilitarian set that doesn't do anything but look cool. Now, for some players, looking cool is pretty good. I mean, staff is one of the few sets that has its own unique animation for flying, and some of those animations are really well done. But being well animated and being underperforming are big problem. Two different things. One of them's a big problem. But looking at the Stalker version, Stalkers don't get the forms. Rather, Stalkers do get build-up, and they do get the Assassin Staff. Now, at first glance, Assassin Staff does seem to share the same strike values as other Assassin's powers. As far as I can tell from a quick cursory glance, staff does not appear to be under damaged on stalkers. Well, just like kinetic melee does not appear to be under damaged when you start comparing it power per power to other sets in the stalker range. So that's pretty good. Uh, I'm still not sure that Serpent's Reach is going to be all that useful. I think it's still like Hurl Boulder, going to be too deeply timed on the cast time that it may actively hurt DPS. But on Stalkers, you also get the advantage that if you go the weapon tertiary, you do get physical perfection. Now, with Stone and checking here, yes, I do get Rooted. Because I do get Rooted and I do get Earth's Embrace, and I can get physical perfection along with explosive Shuriken, I should be pretty good on being able to pump out some AoE damage because I also get, let's check this. I do get Eye of the Storm, and I do get Guarded Spin. So Staff, at least on Stalkers, immediately has more AoE potential out of the box than some of the other Stalker sets. And I'm kind of looking at Katana because I've got a Katana Super Reflexes, and her AoE damage potential is, but her single target damage potential is, I'm sorry, but there was an enemy here. I didn't see them. Oh, you mean that corpse back there? Sorry, I went ahead and beat him. Uh, and my immediate plan right now with the Stalker is kind of the same thing that I did with the Scrapper, in that I really like the combination of uh, speed of sound going into Corrosive Vial. Now, I'm not sure if I'm going to have that much room because the Stalker ATOs, I am going to have to go deep for Assassin's Staff. Not really sure where I'm going to put the other one yet. I'm kind of counting on skipping Mercurial Blow. Uh, I may be skipping Geode, depending on how the powers rack up. Uh, I'm going to have, this is what I'm going to have to do kind of in flight, but I really would like to wind up with Corrosive File and Explosive Shuriken and Physical Perfection, because I think that's going to give me a very good AoE damage potential. It's just, Corrosive File is so much more useful when you're pairing it with a low damage power out front. Uh, I mean, it doesn't do a whole lot of damage on its own, but that minus defense component and the fact it does create that pool around enemies if you're fighting stationary targets or in some place like ITF or uh, Miss Liberty Strike Force, where you've got lots of enemies charging on you, especially useful in Aeon Strike Force, where you've got lots of enemies charging on you. Uh, Corrosive Vial is really a good pool power. It doesn't do a lot of damage, but its utility for a defense debuff is not to be underestimated, and it combos well into a lot of other. I mean, it makes thematic sense because there's a lot of different characters you can play that will allow where it would make sense for they would carry a flask of chemicals with them. Or it may just be something they picked up along the way. There's lots of roleplay scenarios where Corrosive Vial would make more sense than, say, compared to Weaken Resolve or Wall of Force or one of the other more traditional powers. Uh, and uh, Sorry, I lost track of where chat was. And somebody just shouted, "Don't let her escape." Who are you talking about? Let who escape? Anyways, so that's what's going to be next on my plate is working on the Stalker. Uh, and no, that name is not permanent. I'm still not sure. Since she wasn't a character I was expecting to make, she didn't already have uh, a preset name. She's not really. She's kind of a smash up between Hero Glaive and the Stone, whose seismic effect. I'm kind of leaning towards hero effect, uh, simply because she is a glaive user. And yeah, I did actually name both my staff energy scrapper and my staff or my willpower staff tank hero glaive. Yeah, that's confusing. They are supposed to be at least in respect to Paragon City. They are supposed to be uh, the same character. Just one of the it's one of the things I do is I'll do like a future version of a character or a version of a character with different powers, and the energy scrapper is a version of Hero Glaive who's learned to be very very quick, has learned to bend light, doesn't take a hit so much as just avoids all the hits. They have mastered energy, and the other Hero Glaive is a not an alternate dimension version, but a version of Hero Glaive that instead of mastering the energy to avoid attacks, mastered the energy to take attacks. Is just go ahead, hit me with the hardest thing you got. I'll just regen right through it. Uh, and the reason why it kind of comes up is, well, why is uh, what's the importance of this character? Because for me, a lot of characters have importance. And thing is, the character that Hero Glaive is based upon is the pilot for the Feline Foundation. So she actually flies the um, I can't even remember what the designation was. But it was some kind. It was instead of Her Royal Majesties, it was like Her Plushy Majesties, Velthianus. And yes, that was a direct rip of Skies of Arcadia and the Delphinus. I hope I got that right. Um, but yeah, so Hieroglyph is based on the pilot of the Feline Foundation's flagship. So she's always had a specific look, how I wanted her to look, how she was described, and shortcut necromancer robes. Uh, and if you don't get the pun, they're necromancers. They cat magic. No, I'm not sorry. Okay. Really don't think I have anything else because that went over everything that I wanted to. Is uh the mistake I made in looking at the numbers on Dark, why I'm not actually worried about those numbers, how DS2 compares to DR4. DS2 is a better build in some ways, DR4 is a better build in others. DR4 is, granted, is very usable with all of the run boost. DS2 has very few run boosts, so granted, it's a lot slower to use. Went into working on a staff stone stalker, went into why she's important. Also have got distracted by discussion of Gavin Fornia. So okay, I think that's all the intentional notes and unintentional notes I had. So Aurian Archive, and I'll catch you later. And if this night isn't like any others and I can't sleep, we'll probably be back. Or maybe I'll just zonk out. We'll see what happens.